Okay, members, it's 4 o'clock, so I'm going to formally begin the Business and Culture meeting of the Derry Council. So if Stephen, you could read the attendance, please.
Thank you, Chair. So members, you're hereby summoned to the monthly meeting of Business and Culture. Be held hybrid and socially distanced meeting to be conducted remotely via WebEx and physically in the chamber in Guildhall, Tuesday the 14th of September. I take the roll call. So Alderman Morris Devaney.
Did you get there that I was present, Morris?
Got that now, Morris. Thank you. Alderman Darren Guy.
Here, Stephen.
Alderman David Ramsey.
Here, Stephen.
Councillor Jason Barr.
Here, Stephen.
Councillor Raymond Barr.
Here, Stephen.
Councillor Shauna Cusack.
Here, Stephen.
Councillor Gary Donnelly.
That's all.
Councillor Rory Farrell. Councillor Sean Harkin. Councillor Conor Heaney.
Sure, Stephen.
Councillor Patricia Loeb. Councillor Kieran Maguire.
Guys told he's going to be.
Councillor D. Mullen.
So I was sick.
And Councillor Snowy Barr. Thank you, members.
Okay, the next item's broadcasting announcement for hybrid meetings. So we'd like to remind everyone present at the meeting in the Guildhall or in remote attendance remotely that this meeting is broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeat viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you're consenting to being filmed and to the use of storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and use the chat facility to highlight their request to speak. A copy of the Council privacy notice may be found on the Council website. The next item of business is declaration of any members' interests. So if anybody has any interest to declare, they can do it verbally now or during the course of a meeting. Okay. That is that. So the next item is Chairperson's business. I haven't received any notification from anyone that they wish to raise items under this. Just for my own part, a couple of things to note briefly. Obviously, I would like to congratulate Tyrone in their All-Ireland victory at the weekend. I'm sure many of our Strabane members will be more than happy at that. And obviously the Antrim Camogues also captured All-Ireland glory. So congratulations to both sides. Long may it last in Ulster. So just to formally mark that. I also just want to raise a couple of wee items that was notified to us as chairs in relation to the new meetings. So just to brief people or brief members on this. In relation to proposals, as all proposals raised at a committee meeting are only recommendations, these do not require the names of members to propose and second. If the committee is in support of the proposal, it will be listed in the minutes as a recommendation. There is therefore no need for you to call for names of a proposer and a seconder. So that's come through just for clarity. And again, just in relation to declarations of interest, we are encouraging people to verbalise that possible rather than just purely have it in the chat. During hybrid meetings, the committee members will not be accessing WebEx who are here in the chamber, and therefore not to insert proposals into the chat box. So if you have a proposal, if it could be emailed to committee section And we will try and get that displayed on the screen rather than done it just its new format with hybrid, given that members here in the chamber can't see the chat facility in the same way members at home can. So that's just 3 items to brief members on we've informed about. I don't know if there's any questions for officials on any of that.
Councillor Donnelly here. Are you saying that if there's a proposal during this meeting that you send it via email?
Sorry, Councillor, I didn't quite pick that up. Could you repeat the question?
Apologies, Chair. No, I just was looking for clarification that if there's a proposal to be made during the meeting by somebody who's not present in the chamber, that it needs to be done via email. Is that correct? Did I pick you up right on that there?
No, that's just in relation to using the chat facility. All I was clarifying in relation to proposals is that you don't need a seconder, as it's only, it's only a recommendation. That's what we're being informed as chairs. So, but if you have a proposal during the course of the meeting, if you could email it rather than put it in the chat, which previously people had did, so that it can be displayed on the screen, so that all members, both here and at home, can see it. Is that clear?
Thanks, yeah.
Councillor Hargan.
Thank you, Chair. It's just in regard to the proposals for the committee to agree. Are we saying that so there's been lots of things that have been rejected here because they've been voted on, or they didn't get a proposer or a seconder? So is there anything that's going to change other than, because somebody will make a proposal, you're just saying for it to proceed the vote doesn't need a seconder?
Yes, that's the case. It's merely the issue of a seconder that seems to be what's been clarified here. It would go to a vote. I'm assuming the chair still has the discretion of deciding whether the proposal is accepted or not. But it would just go to a vote rather than in the seconder for it. That's
Okay.
what I've been informed.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, if there's no other questions on any of that, if we could move on to matters of reason. If there are any points of clarity for pages 1 to 10, please indicate. Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair. It's in relation to B12721, which was the discussion on the Labour Market Partnership Action Plan. At that committee meeting, the last time we met before summer, we were briefed on the plans for the Labour Market Action Plan. £600,000 is going to be dedicated to improving employment opportunities and skills across this city and district, and that equates to about £4 per person. At the meeting, I had asked the head of business, Kevin O'Connor, how that compared to other council areas across the north. And our argument was we've got the highest rates of unemployment, economic inactivity, poverty and deprivation, and that we should be entitled to a higher per capita spend than all the other councils. So my question is, was Kevin O'Connor, I'm not sure if he is online, was able to source that data, the comparison data between ourselves and the 10 other councils? Any idea?
I come in. We weren't able to get it all because not all councils have got their bids all in and back yet, but Kevin was trying to get it. He's not actually online. He's in business, away in business today. And but we'll chase that and make sure we come back to the members of that, so I'm making note of that. But we were trying to get it from all the other councils to make sure we could see that clarity.
Here, Stephen. I have one more issue on that item as well, Chair. So during the discussion on the Labour Market Partnership, I had said that we were looking forward to a senior official from the Department for the Economy or possibly the Minister to attend this month's meeting. They're not here. They're not online. There's no mention of the delegation that we were expecting. in the meeting pack. So I would like to ask for an update on why those individuals aren't present.
Thank you, Chair. So following several committee meetings, we had written to the Department for the Economy and we invited the Minister up. Initially, the Minister had agreed and was penciled in to present today. Approximately 3 weeks ago, we got a call from the Minister's office to say, unfortunately, the Minister wouldn't be available, but offered 2 senior officials to come up. I spoke to the Chair to see if that was acceptable, which it was. And so we had the Assistant Permanent Secretary and the Head of Policy to come up. As of last Wednesday, they contacted us to say, unfortunately, they weren't available either. And if we would write to them again, they would try and schedule in another date. So I spoke to the Chair and we said we would inform members today and seek a guidance as whether you want us to write back and seek another date.
Go ahead. Sorry, Councillor Donnelly, just one more point from Councillor Farrell, then I'll bring you in.
Thanks, Chair. So we've been round the houses on this. We have been asking for senior officials from the Department of the Economy, preferably the Minister, to come to this council to explain what they're doing to improve the economic outlook for this council area and its citizens. And we have been asking for this since February 2020. So that's over 18 months. We have said that there needs to be strict targets in place for Invest NI in terms of job creation, economic and activity, wage levels, and foreign direct investor visits. 18 months later, nobody has turned up. They didn't turn up last September. We were expecting them again in March. Again, nobody showed up. And here we are again today with nobody present to answer our questions. I was hoping for a third time lucky, but it wasn't to be. This is ridiculous. I think it's an absolute joke. And this isn't faux outrage from me. This is genuine disbelief. We are not asking these people to embark on some intergalactic space exhibition. We're asking them to log on to a meeting, and they can do it from their own house. They can do it from an office. We're not being prescriptive. We just want to hear what they have to say, and we want to tell them what we think is going to make things better. And the fact that they've dodged all these meetings, gone back over a year, I think it's an absolute disgrace. So, Chair, I would ask, I don't have a proposal written down, but it's obviously we need to see these people here as soon as possible. So I would appreciate it if we could write the Minister's private office and explain to them the gravity of this situation and our sort of profound disappointment that nobody has turned up. We've asked repeatedly, we've been given reassurances repeatedly, and they're not here. And it's completely unacceptable. Thank you.
Okay, well, just before I bring Councillor Donnelly in, I totally agree with the sentiments that you expressed, Councillor Farrell, and had already said there are officials that we should write to the Minister again and get the Minister down, and we can do it in such a fashion as to express our unhappiness that we've had to go through this cycle of requests. So, Councillor Donnelly.
But just it's page 7 where it says there's a comment attributed to me. It says talks about covering up crimes in Northern Ireland. There, what I actually said was cover up crimes in this part of Ireland. So that can be amended. Thank you.
Okay, look after that. Councillor Harkin.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the points that Councillor Farrell raised, and while I agree with him that it is an absolute disgrace that the Minister has refused to properly engage with the Council. As he knows, this is nothing new. This is the way Derry and the Northwest have been treated for decades. So for our point of view, we don't expect anything different. You know, the SDLP have been part of the executive from the beginning. So the way we've been treated over the last 25 years, not just the last year, has been an ultimate disgrace. and we're going to need a lot more than, you know, pointing this out at council meetings to do anything about it.
Okay,
Chair, can I just come on, please?
yes.
Could I just like, I would just like to add to the proposal, Councillor Farrell, if maybe we could arrange a special meeting, because understand that it's all the business and culture just mightn't suit the minister's diary. So if we could get a date of them that does suit, we could have a dedicated council meeting to this, because I do think that it will be a long meeting and it would need a special attention, and maybe there'd be a better chance of getting somebody down if you left it, it's up to them within a given time frame. Thank you.
Councillor Lund. Is there any other points of accuracy? Minutes? If not, can we move on to Matt? Okay, Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Chair. This is HC 177/21. It was the industrial action that the committee agreed to send its solidarity and support for the road surface workers that were forced to go on strike. And I spoke to a number of workers.
Councillor Harkin, HC, is that Health and Communities rather than?
Apologies.
Oh,
The wrong meeting.
okay,
Thank you.
that's Thursday. Okay, can we move on to matters arising then? Is there any matters arising from members in relation to the minutes? See anything in the chat box, and see nobody's indicating the room, so that moves us on to item 7. I think 18 is presenting this paper.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, that's fine, Aidan, yeah.
So members, the purpose of this report is to update on the programming and marketing plans for Christmas 2021. So this Christmas, you'll be aware, I'll try and summarize this to sort of the key points in the report, but you'll be aware that a lot of the Christmas activity is led on by the Business and Culture Directorate, but work closely with the Environment Directorate, who are responsible for the Christmas lighting scheme. So they'll be presenting their own reports into ENR on that matter. The key dates for the commencement of the Christmas programming will begin on the 20th of November and continue right through December 2021. You'll be aware that we developed Christmas programming and it's designed a way to complement the existing calendar of events at the festive time to enhance the visitor and shopping experience while drawing on the city and district's rich built and cultural heritage. I've said there we work closely with the Environment Directorate, and there's a focus on bringing communities together and creating the space for shared inclusive celebration around the Christmas period. The Christmas marketing campaign will focus this year on shop and gift local, support local, and your small spend makes a giant different messaging themes targeted primarily at local and regional audiences. The marketing campaign will feature local businesses across the city and district and will be combined with the Department for Communities funded recovery campaign to build consumer confidence and encourage spend. We're using largely the traditional forms of marketing and adapting the successful creatives from previous years and integrated with the new messaging themes. So the proposed Christmas programming dates for this year are set out in the report, with the two key dates of the Christmas light switch on for Strabane on the 20th of November and for the city on the 21st of November. The Wall City Market is expected to be there on the 4th of December. Their Christmas market dates will either be Friday the 10th to Sunday the 12th or Friday the 17th to Sunday the 19th of December. And it's outlined in the report there. There'll be a separate report brought to this committee in October to confirm the Christmas market programming and confirm the dates for that. There'll also be, there is also a Mayor's Christmas programming, which is traditional every year, and that will continue. So the key thing for this year in relation to the Christmas light switch on, we hope to be back to a more traditional Christmas light switch on, in that we will be able to be out and about. As you know, last year we had to, due to the pandemic, we had to virtual switch on. But we are going to, the traditional switch on, as you know, was traditionally in Guildhall Square and Waterloo Place, and then in Abercorn Square and Railway Road in Strabane, with a variety of activities that led up to Santa arriving to switch on the lights. So in light of the pandemic, we are proposing to do an adapted version of the Christmas light switch on for both the city and Strabane. And it's proposed we will go back to an outdoor format, but instead of using one confined space, we are proposing that we use multiple streets, which will allow us to spread the event over a wider area in the city and town centres. So it will see a change in how the event happened, but it should enable us to have more people be able to experience the event and see the event and see it safely, so that we won't face some of the issues that we might have around social distancing with one site. So the plan is that the Santa and his festive companions will travel through the streets with the lights switching on in his wake. The procession, Santa's switch on procession, will consist of festive characters. And as you know, the event over the last number of years has traditionally been supported by the Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Service. That will still be the case. Pantomime characters and beautiful bespoke Christmas themed mobile installations. So the idea there is that members of the public will be able to be spread out across a number of streets to be able to experience the Christmas switch on safely. I've mentioned there the Wall City Market, Saturday the 4th of December, and we will bring a report in October. The business section will bring a report to this committee in October confirming the dates for the Christmas market, but we are hopeful that will go ahead, and that's the intention. You'll be aware the Guildhall Craft Fair traditionally kicks off the festive season. This year, as you know, we had no craft fair last year, and unfortunately, because the continued indoor restrictions, the possibility of hosting the Christmas craft fair this year is unlikely. That's particularly given the lead-in time to that's required for the craft fair. It's a very well established and popular event, but it's probably not going to be possible this year. We have looked at a number of alternative options, but none of them really will allow us to get the throughput that would be required to enable it to be viable, particularly for the traders involved. So the local craft community will form an integral part of and focus of the Shop Local Christmas campaign during November and December to remind shoppers that there is a lot of quality crafts available locally. The Mayor's, as with previous years, the events team will work with the Mayor's office to work out a series of activity that will enable the Mayor to bring festive fun to communities across the city and district. The marketing activity plan is outlined there. There will be a heavy focus on the shoplocaldairystrabane.com website and associated promotion. Again, Christmas in the communities. You'll be aware of the success of the Christmas community activity in 2018, where officers worked with the 5 neighbourhood renewal areas to work up a programme that would complement the overall Christmas offer. It's recommended that a maximum of £3,000 grant from the overall Christmas budget be awarded to these areas to provide complementary programming. This was a one-off grant in Christmas 2018 and the 2 subsequent years, but due to the success, officers recommend this activity be extended for the 2021 Christmas period, with the condition that, again, it provides quality Christmas programming that complements the overall city and district offer. Historically, a grant of £1,000 has been given to communities in Castledare, Newton Stewart and Zion Mills, and while it's recommended that this be continued for 2021, officers will meet with each of these groups to discuss this funding and look at options for the future. This budget has been allowed for in the overall activity. However, there have been requests for further funding from other towns and villages, which is difficult to accommodate with the existing budget and process. As an approach was made to the Department for Communities to establish a specific fund for Christmas switch-on events. However, they advised that the Community Festival Fund is already open and established and is open to such events. It should be noted here that Council have a wider budget for Christmas illumination in excess of £270,000, and officers within the Business and Culture Directorate work closely with our colleagues in Environment Regeneration to ensure the Christmas lighting displays achieve maximum impact with regard to supporting business and visitor growth, with schemes provided within the main business trading areas so as to enhance and attract shoppers and visitors into these commercial areas. Council also recognise that schemes within smaller communities are seen as a focal point for community celebrations for Christmas, not just to enhance the physical appearance, but to add the community spirit and well-being. The budget is set out in the report. and all activities will be procured within keeping with Council's financial procurement policy and procedures. Members, it's recommended that you note the contents of the report and approve the programming and financial arrangements as set out in the report.
Okay, thank you, Aileen. I've pre-indicated speakers are, so if Alderman Devaney come on first, please.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in, and I thank Aileen for bringing forward this report today. A very detailed report, and as I have 5 grandchildren and they all tell me that Santa's coming to the city, so it's good to hear that he's coming, and delighted to see that you are endorsing the Shop Local logo, our strategy, and I think it's important in the difficult times we're in that we do shop locally to help our local businesses and promote our local economy. And look, when we look at you say a more traditional, I think anything would maybe better than what happened as last year. And look, I do take on board, Aileen, that very much you're very much aware of the COVID regulations and what may happen. And look, I do hope that we're in a better situation than we were last year. And it's good to see that the Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue are involved. I'm just questioning in around the multiple streets. Would that mean more screens that people can space out and see in the different streets? Because sometimes when it's in a closed in area, not a closed in area like Guildhall Square, only so many can get in. And I'm just wondering in around that. And look, once again, I can understand the concerns in around the craft fair. And I do know you've talked about getting the lights up, and I do know Conor Canning and others become Mr. Christmas very shortly when the lights goes up, because they are the men that we're phoning about lights here, X, Y, and Z. But look, just to ask about the multiple streets and around the lighting, we would have no problem in proposing the recommendation here, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Alderman Devaney. Councillor Duffy.
Chair, and Aileen as well for the report, really comprehensive and fantastic to see. In terms of the Shop Local, I know that last year that whole campaign made a huge difference to people. The sole traders, the kitchen cottage industries that have been springing up over the course of COVID, it made a huge difference to people who were really struggling. So really excited to see that campaign kicking off again, although I don't believe it ever really went away over the course of the last year. It has been brilliant to see the amount of work that has been taking place on it. So congratulations to all the team in relation to that. The whole programme, Aileen, I have to say, is really exciting. And in terms of the Christmas lighting, I think it's a fantastic idea to spread the love, so to speak. I know from talking to traders in the past, they were concerned that they weren't getting their fair bite of the cherry in terms of when people were coming into the town to big events and stuff. So the fact that the Christmas switch on is going to be spread over different streets, I think that can only be welcomed. And I know that a lot of traders in the smaller streets are spread out, coming out of Guildhall Square, will be definitely welcoming that. So that's great to see. Welcome as well the fountain and the recovery fountain coming from DFC in relation to it. I know I have been working with a lot of small traders over the course of the last year, and they have definitely been grateful to all the support that they have received from council, and will continue to receive. And that I know people who are currently up on the billboards at the minute, and they are just delighted with all the support. So Aileen, congratulations to you and the team in terms of it. It's great to see the campaign continue. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Duffy. Derek, I know you're next in the chat box, but with a number of indicated speakers here in the chamber, so I need to bring them in first. So Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Aileen, for the report. The SDLP fully supports the plans detailed in this report, and it's good to see a return to some semblance of normality with plans in place for an actual physical light switch on. Historically, it's a fantastic event, and it's a cherished moment in every child's sort of social calendar. But it's going to be a light switch on event with a difference, and it's not going to be focused in the Guildhall Square, but I'm sure it'll be no less impressive than previous years, and we look forward to the big night itself. I'll be up there at the front, as excited as Buddy the Elf, waiting to see Santa for the first time since the onset of the pandemic. But in all seriousness, it seems like a fantastic program. And I hope that local residents thoroughly enjoy it and that it attracts visitors to our council area to spend money in our local economy. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Logue.
Thank you, Chair, and Aileen, thank you for the report. And just to add on to what I know Sandra spoke to it really on behalf of our party, but just to especially welcome the neighbourhood renewal funding. I do think it makes a lot of difference and the communities, and the community groups are very, very good at what they do in that aspect. Just a wee suggestion. Do you know the craft fair? And it is very popular. And while we mightn't be able to have it indoors, would there be? You've mentioned 2 dates here for the Christmas market. Would there be any scope to see if they could do an outdoor craft fair? I think that would help the local cottage industries and that Sandra had spoke about too as well. You know, maybe if they could do a day or 2 outdoor in the square, or maybe at other areas around the city district. So just a wee suggestion, get your thoughts on that. Maybe you've scoped that out already and it wouldn't be possible, but okay, thank you.
Aileen, I'll bring you in again just after Alderman Hussey. So Alderman Hussey, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, for permission to speak. I'm not a member of committee, but obviously it's an issue which impacts on that part of the community that I represent. First comment, mightn't be that popular, but on 2.6, we focus on bringing communities together. I would imagine that
Somebody mute their mic, please.
That might have been Paul there. You know, following on from that, I would imagine that in 3.1, when we refer to the switch on Derry, we might at least, if we're bringing communities together, refer to it as Derry Londonderry at very least. But that aside, moving to 2.7, then the shop and gift local, fantastic, exactly what we want, focus on local. But how local to many of the rest of our district are the 2 urban areas where the concentration on the events appears to be. By the way, I like others, extend sincerest thanks to the environmental and regeneration staff who deal with the lighting schemes. And the lighting schemes do encompass our wider community and are continuing to grow and expand within those communities beyond the communities of the city and Strabane. If I look at the funding, in 4.1, we have 42,000 basically to the 2 urban areas. Add to that the 15,000 that will go to the neighbourhood renewal areas, which are urban based, and you're looking at what is it, for £57,000. Not to mention the 20,000 in marketing. And I then look at what is proposed again to go to 3 rural communities. Communities that do tremendous work, be it Sion Mills, Castledurg and Newton Stewart. By the way, Newton Stewart is spelled TOWN, and that has happened quite often. Could we ensure that at least our communities beyond the urban areas are spelled correctly in reports? Chair, £3,000 going to these 3 areas. In the past, I have urged that £1,000 is upped, and you know, to up that to £2,000 for those communities would be, you know, it would be a recognition of that things have moved on in costings, etc., rather than just sticking at what has been there for, I don't know, a decade or more. that there should be an increase in funding to those particular community festival events. When one compares that going to the neighbourhood renewal areas, and this is something that is an issue right across the rural DEAs. The neighbourhood renewal areas are strong, and fair play to them, they get on with it. But there has to be a recognition, a reciprocal recognition of the needs of the rural communities. So that is something that I'm very disappointed with in the report, that there has been no upping of funding to be made available to communities beyond the 2 urban areas. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, Aileen, have one more indicated speaker before I bring you back. So, Councillor Jason Barr.
You, Chair, for letting me on. It's just thanks, Aileen, too, for the report. It's just a question for Aileen regarding Santa parading around Strabane. Now, I don't know if I'm trying to get in my head how I think this will work, because everybody always accumulates to the tree on Strabane. Nobody ever has stood around streets or anything. And as there plans to put more on the streets of Strabane to attract people to different areas, because personally, now I wouldn't stand on another street just to watch over hanging lights being turned on. As you say, children always want to see the tree being turned on. And just on a second point, I would agree with Derek regarding the communities of Castledare, Newton Stewart, Say Mills, that hopefully the funding never does result into be cut into them areas. Them areas already feel let down because they don't get obviously what Derry or Strabane get as regard to illuminations in Christmas time. So hopefully it never comes to the funding being cut to those areas. But if you could answer that first question, please, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, Aileen, one more. Councillor Hargan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Aileen and the team for the report. And we absolutely support any initiatives that are geared towards making our city centres and towns and villages vibrant. So the shop local is something that we definitely support, and we should do what we can to make sure that we have as many independent local traders that are succeeding. And I think that that's what this is aimed to do. And I also appreciate the attempt to make sure that the words community spirit are used in there. And I think that that's something that we need to build upon. We've been terribly atomized over the last year and a half. Zoom has brought us together, but it's not the same as getting together with people. And hopefully this year we'll have a lot more community spirit, and we should do everything we can to make sure that people can enjoy the festive period as much as possible. And I sympathise with rural representatives, because I think that the attempt to do that should be urban, and we should make sure that we're spreading the wealth as much as we can to rural areas as well, so that people aren't feeling left out. And just one thing I want everyone to want us to make note of, and this is about Christmas more generally. People might be familiar with the fact that the unions are calling for the big retailers and supermarkets to give they allow their workers to go home at 4 o'clock on Christmas Eve to get Boxing Day off and to get New Year's Day off. Some big supermarkets and employers have already agreed to this, but I think we should be urging our big employers across the district to follow suit, because this is what community spirit is about. People should be allowed the time to enjoy the festive period with their friends, their families, their loved ones, and actually have a bit of time off. I mean, for workers who are in retail, who live in our communities, the last year and a half has been a manic and hectic period. And I think, there's a kind of situation where people are living to work instead of getting to work to live. So I think that this call from multiple trade unions to have for workers to get more holiday time over the festive period fits in with our attempt to kind of encourage community spirit and the shop local and so on. So I think if everybody can make note of that, and in different ways, we can urge the bigger employers across the district and across the north to heed the call from workers for extra holiday time. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Raymond Barr has now indicated again.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report, Aidan. Much on the same lines as Alderman Hussey and Councillor Justin Barr there. Aidan, is there anything else planned for Strabane apart from the switch on of the Christmas lights? We've been told that the Christmas fair event depends on whether or not the bids vote is successful. And as I've said before, I think that's a bit unfair. Thank you.
Okay, Aidan, if you want to come back on now, there's no more speakers, just to answer any other questions, but please.
Yes, so just a couple of questions I noted there. Councillor Logan, in relation to the craft fair, yeah, a lot of we have scoped an outside craft fair specifically. It doesn't really suit a lot of the traders, but it is just important to note that a lot of the market itself is craft products. So there is opportunity for the craft traders who are able to go outside. I suppose they can go into the Wall City market or the Christmas market, but just the type of fair, the craft fair that it doesn't necessarily suit a lot of the traders. And sort of the feedback was that a bespoke outdoor craft fair just probably wouldn't suit it just was probably too risky. So that's just in relation to that, but it is something we've looked at, and I suppose anybody that's very keen on an outside opportunity, there are opportunities there for them, or we hope there will be. And I think in relation to this other question, in relation to from Councillor Barr, just in relation to the activity in Strabane, just probably maybe it wasn't clear in the report, the activity there is for a procession. So Santa will be processing around the streets of the city and the district, or city and town centres for the switch on. So that's I suppose the activity that people will see. And they will be out to watch the procession, if you like, and then the lights will come on in the wake of the procession. So that's to get away from the tree, as you say, or the one focal point that would have been turned on. And it'll be very much planned on encouraging people to take their place on the route, so that being on the route will be as good as an experience, wherever, as opposed to being at the end of the route. So we're very much mindful of the safety aspect, but no matter where you are, it'll be focused on the experience, and the experience being a good one for wherever you are. So it will be quite different to the traditional switch on event, but based on a procession that will turn on the lights, as it were. And I think that was all the questions. Come back, and I think the rest were probably comments, which we're happy to note.
Yeah, there's one further question just come in here, Aidan, if we'll see if you need to come back. So Councillor Boyle.
Thanks, Chair. Not a member of the committee, but I'll make it quick anyway. It's just in relation to, obviously I expect that the route will be well known in advance. I'm just trying to visualize what that might look like. I can easily visualize it in the city centre. I'm just wondering how far beyond the city centre it might be considered appropriate, or is it simply within the areas where there's lighting, or has that been given any thought? And again, I would imagine that the question would be similar to Strabane and Castlederrick. I mean, I think if you can do a parade in Strabane, there's no good reason in my mind where you couldn't do one in Castlederrick or elsewhere. So I'm just putting it out there to see what the thinking was around that, Chair.
Okay, do you want to respond to that before we move on?
Yeah, it will. The route will primarily be focused on where there's lighting, but we will try and ensure that if we can extend the procession, as it were, as far as we'll do it as far as we can. Bearing in mind the resources that are required to run any length of parade, and I suppose the other thing is that we need to ensure that it's safe. So we're looking at a number of options at the moment to ensure that we can safely distance people and that we can safely run the procession through the streets, but primarily focused on where the lights are. So it will be turning on the lights, but again, we're trying to balance that route and sort of trying to, there's multiple factors there that would be taken into account in terms of developing the route, but it would be on the basis of it being the best experience for all of the attendees, that'll spread it out around as much of the community as possible, that will be, give a lift to as many traders as we can, you know, with the resources that we have. So that's the rationale behind it.
Okay, thanks, Aileen. I think Alderman
And it will be published in advance, yes. So you will know. It will be advertised. Sorry, I think that was one of the questions as well. But yeah, it'll not be a surprise. You won't be wandering the streets hoping to find the procession somewhere. Sorry, but yeah, once we have it finalised, and we'll be pushing it out as part of the promotion for the event.
That wasn't a question. I expected that would happen.
Okay, well, as I say, we haven't heard anybody speaking against Christmas, but we need a seconder. Just I think Alderman Devaney proposed it. Can you just have a seconder? Councillor Farrell. So that item is passed. So can we move on to agenda item 8? I think Stephen's presenting this paper.
Thank you, Chair. So members, the purpose of this paper is to update on electric vehicle charging infrastructure in the council area, but primarily to seek members' approval to review the charging infrastructure and within our own car park facilities, and also to explore options to develop and enhance this infrastructure throughout the entire district area. So members will be aware that our electric vehicle charging points were largely installed in between 2012 2014, and since then have been maintained by power supplier ESB. A number of them now are approaching their sell-by date, and at the same time where the move towards electric vehicles is very much in the headlines. So largely, a lot of the existing infrastructure is becoming obsolete and becoming hard to get parts and hard to fix. And in addition, we're very low in terms of coverage for the council area. So there are a number of barriers to that, and one of them would be that the charging infrastructure is geographically specific, so it tends to be in the larger urban areas. There's also in terms of charging for them, so they're free at the minute, so that prohibits and doesn't provide any money for future investment or for future proofing of the infrastructure. So there are a number of reviews going on between central government and our department colleagues. So the key issues that we have is with the lack of infrastructure, it's going to be difficult to hit the rollout of electric vehicles that's required. When we did our parking strategy ourselves, we identified that a number of the key electric charging infrastructure and the quantity of them needs to be enhanced. And this was proposed as one of our strategic options. So by enhancing this infrastructure and using our off-street car parking, we could potentially remove one of the barriers to visit, stay, and attract users to the accessible car parks. So obviously we have the government targets, which is by 2030 that the current sales of cars will all be electric, and it's estimated by then approximately 63% of all registered cars could be electric. At present, we have a very low number of electric vehicles, and as I say, the infrastructure is not in good condition. So providing electric vehicle points brings a number of benefits to all the visitors and our residents: clean air, noise pollution, reduced environmental damage, etc., and fits in well with our climate emergency agenda that council has signed up to. Challenges that we have is obviously the cost of the infrastructure. We have planning and legal issues. We have scalability of the infrastructure, lead times, and uncertainty. There are a number of potential models that we could use, and officers would seek to look at a soft market testing exercise to explore some of these solutions with a view to bringing a paper back to members with some recommendations of how we could extend the infrastructure, pay for the infrastructure going forward without necessarily attracting additional rates income, and in addition provide a proper infrastructure for electric vehicles across the city and district. So members will note the recommendations that we look at this review. We carry out a soft market test on what would be available in the market and what would be also acceptable to users. And we bring those options back to members with a recommendation and a future report. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. Just first, before bringing in indicated speakers, I'm happy to propose this item myself. I think move towards electric vehicles is part of our contribution to addressing the climate crisis. Council has to play its part in making these vehicles more attractive. The the people who want to use them and want to move away from fossil fuels. So I think this is a positive step forward in relation to our council, and I'm happy to propose the items. So the next indicated speaker is Councillor Cusick.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Stephen. I'm happy to second the report. Obviously, we are racing towards, these deadlines when it comes to the need for a changeover in the type of vehicles that we use. And quite frankly, I think all of us in the chamber or virtual chamber, wherever we are at the minute, have been approached by someone at some time just regarding the sheer lack of functionality of what we have, the provision we have at the moment. And we all know that a number of them aren't even working at the moment. So, there's spaces which, first of all, people could be using, and secondly, it's not encouraging people to go out and purchase electric cars, because they'll say, well, where can I get parked, where can I get charged, so that they're not having the confidence to do that. And if they're not having the confidence to do that now, then we certainly need to address this, especially for the bigger picture, which you've already highlighted in the report, and everybody is committed to, and that is our environmental improvement. They are expensive, there's no doubt about that, but they're also money saving in the long term with regards to fuel costs. I would be very interested to see how, we could actually make money from that in order to sustain the provision of these car parking spaces and charging sites. So I would be really, really keen to see what comes back from this report, and where we can actually facilitate not just central urban centres, but, further into communities and to the rural environment as well too, because if we want everybody to be using these cars and these vehicles going forward, then we need to provide the facilities that's required. So welcome the report on behalf of the SDLP, thank all the officers, and look forward to what comes back.
Okay, Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me. And look, like others, our party DEP has no problem in supporting the recommendation here. But I would just like to reiterate some of the concerns that the other members have made. And look, my colleague, excuse me, Alderman Hilary McClintock has raised the issue about charging points a number of times. And I think, Chair, if we're going to be earnest and looking at the 2030 deadline to everyone to be having electric cars, I think we need to have the infrastructure in place, because at the end of the day, if we the biggest complaint is in around charging points, and we know the limited number of charging points that are there, and as somebody else has quite rightly stated, is a number of them not even working, so people can't use them. As we look, some of the rest of them have said as well, Chair, and around the cost of the electric car, and that is what concerns me at the moment, because when you look at the cost of the car, and I know the previous speaker has said there's savings over 5-6 years. There are many on low income there, and at the end of the day, they could not afford to buy a car at the cost of in excess between 20 and 30,000 pound, and maybe above for electric car. And at the moment, they can buy a runaround for about £1,000–1,500 with a year's MOT. So I do think, Chair, we have to be very proactive in getting the charging points in. And I think we have to be proactive as well in calling for help. If we're really sensed in to moving to electric, I think our government, and it should be raised through our assembly, that there needs to be some initiative there for people financially to move to cars, grants, and I know there have been grants out, but they had been all taken off. But I think if we're realistic, we need to be looking at grants, but no problem, Chair, in supporting the recommendation.
Thanks, Morris. Councillor Hargan.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, electric cars are preferable to fossil fuel burning cars, and so having more charging sites across the district would be welcome. But this is not a solution to the climate crisis. This is big business trying to profiteer out of the climate crisis, and there's a number of additional issues about cars. It's not just air quality, which it's about congestion in city centre areas like our city. We're building huge new housing sites across the district, and that is going to lead to more car congestion, which is going to put parking under more pressure, put city centres under more pressure. So this isn't really a solution on that front. We want people out of cars, but the infrastructure that we actually need to develop is our public transportation infrastructure, rail and buses, buses that are electric, rail that is electric. But there is no movement in that. So it's a bit frustrating where we're sitting here looking at papers about how to develop the use of electric cars when there's agreement across the board from people at the forefront of the climate movement to try and stop climate change, that public transportation and rail is where we should be putting the investment. And what we have here is studies when this has been known facts for decades. So, of course, by all means, let's have more charging sites, but this is far from a solution. And, you know, it doesn't, people shouldn't need reminding that in our district, there are a lot of people who cannot afford to buy a car, who cannot afford to buy a very expensive electric car. So this is not a solution at all for them in terms of public transportation. So, you know, I think we can't be satisfied with you know, a bit of progress when this is backed up. I mean, this solution here is backed up by big corporations who are seeking to make a tremendous amount of money by charging, charging exorbitant prices for cars that many people in our district cannot afford.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Hargan. Before I bring in the last indicated speaker, can I just clarify, are you opposing the item, Councillor Hargan, just for whether we need to take this to a vote or not?
I didn't say I was opposing the item. I says we welcome the having more charging points because electric cars are preferable. But I am making the point that the Stormont executive has no plans to put any tracks on the ground this year, which is very, very disappointing and shocking, really, given that thousands and thousands of people have marched and protested, and that there's a climate bill being debated in Stormont, but there's no actual plans to put tracks on the ground. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Alderman Darren Guy.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. Look, just following on from the rest of the members, what they were saying there, we definitely have to increase the infrastructure and make it better. We don't have enough charging points. There's been problems in trying to repair the charging points that we have. But a total ban on polluting vehicles by 2030, I think it's rather, to be honest, I think it's rather ambitious. And to remove hybrids by 2035 is, well, let's say, I think it's rather, what's a bit, well, not called stupid, but with a taxi industry, and granted that the Minister for Infrastructure is basically opening a review now, which is more than welcome by all taxi drivers, but there's some of the lowest paid taxi drivers in the whole of Europe, and basically we're looking at being told that their diesel cars will be banned, well, the sale of diesel cars will be banned by 2030. I can't see too many taxi drivers in this town changing over to an electric vehicle between now and 2030. A few actually went for the hybrid models, and they're now being told that they're going to be obsolete by 2035. So I think a complete rethink of the hybrid model, and basically when taxi drivers were happy enough to use it, maybe now in the infrastructures, the Ministers for Infrastructure, maybe in their review of the taxi industry, may look at perhaps some incentives for taxi drivers to move over to, well, at least hybrid, if we're looking at another 14 years for them. So a lot of things to think about it between now and then. But thank you, Chair.
Okay, I have no more indicated speakers. The item's been proposed and seconded, and I haven't heard anyone who is opposing the item, so I'll take that item as passed. So can we move on to agenda item 9? And I think it's Aideen again who's presenting this paper.
Yeah, so thank you, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is to secure your approval for the allocation of additional funding for the National Events Fund for 21-22. This report outlines the outcome of an assessment of an additional application received for national events funding and to seek approval to allocate to the successful applicant. Members, you'll recall that in previous years, a number of opportunities for one-off national events to come to the region of subvention were made available, were presented to Council. It was anticipated this would be a very small number and that an allocation from the festival events budget be allocated to facilitate this. Officers developed, based on the criteria outlined, a standardised mechanism for the assessment of this type of one-off opportunity event. It was always anticipated it would require the generation of a subsequent council paper in each instance. And you'll be aware the allocation for the 21-22 period for this fund has been approved by members in March 21 and the full budget allocated. Members, you'll recall a report to this committee in July outlining plans by the Bloody Sunday Trust for the 50th anniversary of Bloody Sunday in January 2022. At that committee, members, you approved the submission of an application to this fund for a major event led by the Bloody Sunday Trust for this anniversary. This followed discussion with officers, which was facilitated by a council officer who formed part of the Trust Advisory Committee in an advisory capacity. Officers have worked with the organisers to understand in more detail the proposals, and a panel has assessed this event on the basis of the criteria below, and the results are outlined in this report. The criteria for national events subvention programme are total visitor numbers greater than 5,000 and an overall budget of 100,000 or more. In-kind support is not considered, with funding requests between £10,000 and £50,000. The event must achieve significant high-profile international media coverage, with the overall aim should be a return of 5-1. The event must enhance the area's opportunity to host major events, be backed by a viable budget and realistic planning, and have measurable outcomes. All applicants have to meet with a member of the festival and events team at least 1 year in advance of the event. Members, you'll be aware that the National Events Fund has been set up in a way that if opportunities do arise or significant events present themselves, that these will be considered as one-off applications. The allocation for the current financial year has been allocated to the recent Cricket International Series held at Brady. The table in Appendix 1 details eligibility, scoring and requested funds for the National Events Subvention Scheme. Ordinarily, these events are presented to committee anonymised. However, in this case, as the decision to allow this application was taken in open business in July, the event is named and detailed in this paper. The rationale for considering this application is that the event is of major civic significance to the city and district, and there will be a year-round programme connected to this event, which will culminate in one highly significant event in January 2022. Under the assessment criteria, the event scored 88 marks and very high in terms of international media coverage. As the existing budget for this fund has already been allocated, members are asked to approve an additional £50,000 to this event based on their score of 88. This award will be made subject to the applicants meeting all the conditions of any letter of offer. Members of this committee have received a summarised version of the detailed proposal from the Trust in advance of this meeting, which will be published in due course, but much is subject to their own contractual arrangement with suppliers and funding. Members, as outlined above, a total of £50,000 is allocated to this event from the National Events Subvention Fund, but it should be noted the annual budget for this fund for 21-22 has been allocated, and therefore additional funds from the wider council budget must be sought. Members, the recommendation is to approve the Bloody Sunday 50th anniversary event for £50,000 allocated via the National Events Fund from the financial year 21-22.
Okay, thanks, Aideen. I have two indicated speakers so far. So, Councillor Logue.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to propose this item. It certainly is going to be a very important year in the calendar for the City and District next month, and it's already attracting international coverage, and there will be a lot of international media here too as well. So I certainly endorse this recommendation to award the extra money. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Aideen, for the report. The SLP fully supports this funding allocation of £50,000 for the 50th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. I've said this before, Bloody Sunday is one of the seminal events in Irish history, and it's right and it's proper that this council supports events that commemorate that tragic day, and that we support it financially. Bloody Sunday has left a scar on our society, and the Tory government's amnesty plans to brush it all under the carpet should be rejected. at every opportunity. But Bloody Sunday also tells a fantastic story of community spirit and how an entire city got behind brave families as they fought for justice against the might of the British state. So that's something to cherish and celebrate. The SLP fully supports the victims of Bloody Sunday and fully supports this funding allocation for the 50th anniversary event. Thank you. Happy to second.
Okay, Alderman Gary.
You, Chair, for letting me in. Look, whilst I don't see there being much, if any, opposition to this funding request, still do question, the BST knew that the 50th anniversary was happening in 2022, yet they chose to wait now to submit a request for funding. I do feel it rather patronising to this council for the late funding application, and perhaps even a sense of entitlement with the BST. The fact that council have, well, let's say not broke with protocol, but decided to allow this extra funding request after funding for the year had already been allocated, and agreeing to allow the corporate assistance of this council whilst members voted disingenuously to remove it from the centenary commemorations, I can't help but think that it sets a dangerous precedent in moving forward. There's so many 50th anniversaries approaching throughout the entirety of this council and our council area, and I would hope that the same inclusiveness is shown towards various groups who are already planning ahead for next year and beyond. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, Alderman Ramsey.
Thank you, Chair. Just basically to support the last speaker there, Alderman Guy, on what he had to say there. No matter what anyone says, right, we all know that this was one of the biggest tragedies in '72, and we know how many people lost their lives in that year. And I think the issue for probably for a lot of innocent victims at the minute, from other parts of the city, is the fact that council really have become engrossed in it because of the fact that the actual media around the Guildhall during the the inquiries, etc. And it's like it has, like, for a lot of people, created a hierarchy, and that's where council have a big issue. Because no matter what, like, there is, like, in the light of evidence to do with Claudia, for instance, we as a council have a duty, because we are going to have to now get involved with the Claudia victims, and we're obviously going to have to call out all bodies involved going forward. And there has been issues relating to this here, and the families of Bloody Sunday are the exact same as the families of all the other murders throughout the Troubles. All the families have suffered the same, and I think what's happening is council are getting embroiled more and more into one incident. That is why we as a council will corporately have to look through a motion, which I hope to bring forward soon, to try and work out how we be totally inclusive and make all victims feel the same under our council corporate. And obviously, as already stated earlier, there definitely was a big hurt within the unionist community too, as well, to do with the attitude of colleagues within council to do with the 100th anniversary of Northern Ireland. So there's equality. There's feelings in the community that reconciliation is what we need to strive for. Council, this is where we need to start it from. We have a legacy that we need to make sure that all victims and families are recognised. And as I say, Claudia is probably the first stepping stone now to the next step for the innocent victims of the troubles in our city, where this group have now made progress. So we look forward to that progressing further. And yes, next year there should be quite a number of events, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of ask of council, because there has been a lot of people have lost their lives in our city and district. So that is all I have to say. And DUP, like any victims group that are looking for funding from council, you know, at the end of the day, the procedures are there, they're carried out, and the Bloody Sunday families will have their commemorations next year. And again, we will be hoping that many other families will as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, Alderman, can I just for clarity see how we finish this item, because it's been proposed and seconded? Are either you or Alderman Guy opposing the item?
No, I'm not opposing, Chair.
Okay, so there's no need to take that to a vote. So we can consider that item passed then. Okay, moving to agenda item 10, and I think it's Aideen again who's speaking to this.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is for you to approve funding from within the Northwest Air Access Consortium Fund to assist in the promotion of new and existing air routes following the pandemic, alongside Council's wider regional promotion and marketing campaign. The Northwest Air Access Consortium Fund was set up by Derry City Council and a number of stakeholders in 1999 to promote and develop air access in the northwest of Ireland and actively support the marketing of inbound traffic through the airport. In 2019, with a view to reducing costs and economies of scale with council advertising activity, a sum of £105,000 was approved from the Fund for Airport General Marketing Activities for 1920 and 2021. During this time, the airport has been working with minimal baseline advertising budgets from within the annual subvention allocation. The remaining funding pot unallocated after this £105,000 approval is £117,000, which sits as a ring-fence sum within council reserves. Recent airline curtailment of routes in Northern Ireland is a stark reminder of the challenges ahead as we emerge from the pandemic. In addition, City of Derry Airport did not benefit financially from the NIDAC scheme and require a more localised and bespoke approach to our role in the region's connectivity. We believe in our catchment area there is a strong desire to fly local, avoiding additional costs and inconvenience. We, however, need to develop a wider scope of services to capture this opportunity. As we emerge from the pandemic, this is therefore a critical time to access the remainder of the funding, allowing opportunities within the next 12 to 18 months to be maximised. Continuous marketing efforts are required to ensure the success of existing routes as the post-pandemic recovery evolves, new behaviours are established and the industry shapes up to new opportunities. It is critical that any new route opportunities are captured during this critical period, as well as ensuring that ongoing general marketing campaigns are progressed, which will work closely alongside Council's wider marketing and promotion of the city and region. Council officers from the Culture Department will work closely with marketing colleagues from City of Derry Airport and Visit Derry to develop a detailed marketing plan for this investment. Members will also be aware of the ongoing engagement with Government to share the funding burden associated with the airport following Council approval of the business case. The remainder of the Northwest Air Access Consortium Fund should now be approved for use to allow CODA's marketing and route development efforts over the next 12 to 18 months to attract new partners and routes. In turn, this is increasing our connectivity, increasing our GVA contribution, increasing our revenue capability, contributing to our long-term sustainability aims by reducing our annual subvention costs. That is, the CODA's annual subvention costs. It is worthy of note that the airport will be carbon neutral, fully offset for Scope 1 and 2 by 2022. CODA Board has welcomed this initiative and CODA management are engaging closely with Council representatives to make further reductions and introduce initiatives to ensure any growth remains in the carbon neutral status. There are not considered to be any equality, rural or data protection or climate change issues associated with this report. As noted, the funds requested sit as a ring-fenced amount within Council reserves and can be fully funded from that source. So members, it's recommended that you approve that the balance of funding from within the Northwest Air Access Consortium Fund of £117,000 is released to assist in the promotion of new and existing air routes following the pandemic alongside Council's wider city, region promotion and marketing campaign.
Okay, thank you, Aideen. And Alderman Devaney has declared an interest as a member of the Airport Committee in the chat box. I have no one on the Councillor Harkin.
Thanks, Aideen, for the report. And I suppose I have a couple of questions. I mean, I don't actually know who's on the Northwest Airport Consortium. So if you could let us know who's on that. And then it says that there'll be no impact on kind of the environment. But I would imagine if there's increased use of the airport, meaning more airlines, more flights, that would have an impact on the environment. So, you know, am I wrong in thinking that? Because the goal would be to have more flights, and so if we could get a response to that, and at a third question on this, but yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. Thanks.
Okay, one further on the case speaker, so Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Aideen, for the report. I have no questions. I'm happy to propose the item. Like we as a party fully support City of Derry Airport, and we fully support any plans in place to maximise usage of the airport to drive economic growth in the northwest of Ireland. So fully support. Thank you.
Okay, just before I bring Aideen back into it, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So, Aideen, you says that any plans for increased use would be carbon neutral. Can you explain what that means? Thanks.
Okay, I'll bring you in a second, Aideen, just to answer Councillor Harkin's questions. Can I have a seconder for the item for that? Okay, thank you, Councillor Logue. So, Aideen, do you want to come back and answer the questions, please?
So in relation to how the intention there by the City of Derry Board is to be carbon neutral by 2022, and the assumption there is that any further activity, any further growth remains within the carbon neutral status. How that's going to happen now, Councillor Harkin and other members, really, I'm going to need to get more detail from some of my colleagues, or some of our colleagues from the City of Derry Airport to explain that in detail. I will not disgrace myself by even attempting to answer that. So I don't know I don't know quite the detail of how that's going to happen, but I'm assuming that they will adhere to their statement there, that's what they're going to do. And if there are new routes coming on, that they will be that they intend to remain carbon neutral, so they'll be doing something to offset that. What that is, I don't know. But I'm happy to talk to colleagues and come back to you, members, with a response to that, or ask for that to be brought into the governance committee under the next report on the City of Derry Airport. My understanding is that we're the only remaining member of the Northwest Air Access Consortium, so it's a sum of money that has been ring fenced within our budget. So although it refers to a consortium, it's really Council and City of Derry Airport that are the members of that consortium now. But again, I'll double check and have that either response brought into governance or brought into this committee. I think, did I answer? Was there another question there?
No, I think that's, well, Councillor Harkin wants
back. I failed to answer all the appropriate questions, or all the questions that were asked.
Yeah, thanks, Aideen. Look, you know, I think it's fair to ask these questions because I just seen that big parties like the SDLP and others were at a rally for climate action at Stormont on Monday, and to talk about just growth. Isn't this the problem? That non-stop growth has led us the way we are in terms of the environmental damage. So I'm not 100% comfortable with supporting proposal when I can't get a basic explanation of what carbon neutral actually means. Because if we're very successful increasing usage, spending a couple of £100,000 increasing use of the airport, which means more flights, I don't see how that will not have an impact on air quality unless we're flying, electric airplanes, and I don't think that's happening by 2022. So I think I would prefer to get a report on the possible impact of increased use of the airport before I would be confident in signing off on this. There's just too much at stake. So this is the problem, where we have like rhetoric about climate change, and then when it comes down to it, people are willing to kind of just go along with like business as usual when it comes to infrastructure and the energy use. So, you know, the COP26 protests are coming up. I'm sure people will be aware of that. And these are the very things that are being discussed. So I think that anybody who is serious about arresting and stopping climate change and acting on the red alert that the IPCC have given us need to be asking these questions about what will increased use of the airport actually mean from a climate change point of view.
Okay, well, given those comments, and Councillor Donnelly has also indicated in the chat box that he would be wanting to abstain, so I think we'll need to take this to a vote, Stephen, just to get this processed.
Chair, I'm making an additional proposal, which is that we get a report on what increased use of the airport would actually mean for in light of the climate emergency that we're facing.
Okay, we'll do that.
I just come in on that before we take it to vote. I'm happy to pass on to the colleagues and we get a vote, or we'll get a report on what does carbon neutral mean for City of Derry Airport and brought back into the next governance committee, if that's okay. I mean, that doesn't need a proposal, so I'd make sure that's done. Take us to the vote, Chair. So, so it's for or against the paper as it is. Alderman Maurice Devaney.
For.
Alderman Darren Guy. Alderman David Ramsey.
For.
Councillor Jason Barr.
For, Stephen.
Councillor Raymond Barr.
Abstain, Stephen.
Councillor Shauna Cusack.
For.
Councillor Gary Donnelly.
Same.
Councillor Rory Farrell. Councillor Sean Hargan. Councillor Conor Heaney.
For.
Councillor Patricia Logue. Thank you.
Okay.
It's 8 for and 3 abstentions.
That item passes. So can we move to item 11? Aideen, I think this is your paper again.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is to seek your approval for an addition to the proposed service level agreement with the North West Carnival Initiative. Members should be aware the core mission of the Carnival Initiative is to produce creative carnival-based programming that facilitates artistic excellence, community training, cultural collaboration and civic celebration. They provide a range of services including organising carnival events, programming carnival skills development, programming carnival arts training for local artists and facilitators, and assisting community groups with developing and organising carnival events and activity. The Carnival Initiative employ a Carnival Development Officer with responsibility for implementing and managing a community-based programme of carnival arts activity with an emphasis on skill development and creative expression through carnival. The Carnival Initiative is a community-centric organisation which was historically established by Derry City Council to facilitate the development of carnival resources and capacity within the sector. Council recognises the potential for the Carnival Initiative to expand their scope to engage and support festivals and events across the Northwest and beyond. And the Carnival Initiative has already encompassed the former Strabane District Council area since the new council was established. The current service level agreement with the Carnival Initiative places a requirement on them to support the delivery of outcomes in the Inclusive Strategic Growth Plan and the Arts and Culture Strategy. They're also charged with aligning their strategic planning and operational delivery to ensure complementarity with Council's own festival and events programme. The current service level agreement with them covers operational costs, carnival programming and carnival assets, including costumes, smaller scale props, sets and floats. It's recognised within the Arts and Culture Strategy that there is a need to help develop and build capacity and skills locally in order to achieve aim 2 of the strategy, which is to deliver quality programme, product and practice. In working with the Carnival Initiative, officers have identified a need to improve and develop the skills base within the Carnival Initiative to produce larger scale props and installations locally that can be used not only during festival times but year round. Often these installations have to be sourced from outside the region and are not community developed or designed using the local skill base. As society plans some tentative steps back towards life as we knew it pre-COVID, Council and our partners in the Department for Communities are working on the best means to deliver some activity that complies with any potential restrictions without compromising the vision and creativity that has come to be expected as standard for our arts and culture activity. By developing the skills within the Carnival initiative to produce some large-scale art installations and props, this will not only provide a focal feature in animating, but will help achieve the overall objective of encouraging footfall back into the city and town centres. The installations will be located outdoors in a number of diverse locations, city and district-wide. They'll then be able to be stored within the Carnival initiative storage space and reused as and when the need arises. So members, it's proposed that an annual budget of £10,000 be used to develop this skill set and produce these installations through the North West Carnival Initiative, subject to annual rates approvals and to be reviewed year on year. It's proposed that the first year budget be taken from the funding provided through the direct grant from the Department for Communities funding. Members, you're asked to approve the additional element to the North West Carnival Initiative service level agreement, including the allocation of identified financial resources.
Thank you, Aideen. I have no indicated speakers in the chamber. Anyone on the chat box? Councillor Logue.
Thank you, Aidan. I would just like to propose this proposal here to you as well. I think it's a model that council could be using in the future for developing other products and services throughout the local groups. So just like to propose this this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in. And look, we have no problem in seconding the recommendation here. I think anything to help the arts and culture business is very, very welcome. And we know the difficulties they've been through this last year and a half, 2 years with COVID and stuff like that. The only thing I would ask, Aiding, will rural villages be included in this year if they can be used? But that's the only question I would have. Once again, being a rural councillor, we need to be getting that message out to our rural villages.
Okay, thanks, Alderman Devaney. Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks again, Aideen, for the report. The North West Carnival Initiative plays a key role in the delivery of our cultural calendar, most notably around St. Patrick's Day and Halloween. And it makes total sense that we should invest in that organisation to develop the skills within the organisation, which will ultimately deliver more impressive, locally sourced and locally produced props, etc., for our cultural events. So happy to propose or happy to support on behalf of the SDLP. Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Hussey.
Thanks for the opportunity, Chair. In a bit like Alderman Devaney there, I suppose 2.1 talks about community training, cultural collaboration, civic celebration, and assisting community groups. Is there evidence of this over this past 12, 24 months, whatever, as to where this community training has occurred, what cultural collaboration has taken place, what civic celebrations have they been involved with, and who are the community groups that are being assisted? And then with regard to the installations across diverse locations across the city and district, could we be more specific as to where these locations are? And I think that follows on really from Alderman Devaney's comment as well as to the broader reach of the organisation. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I have no more indicated speakers. Oh, sorry, Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just look, the North West Carnival Initiative do a tremendous amount of work with very little. So we'll be happy to support this proposal. And I think, we have to do whatever we can as a council to fight for all the organisations in our arts and culture community, because we know how difficult the last year and a half has been. And we know that there's been a massive imbalance in terms of funding for the arts and culture sector right across our district. So this is a step in acknowledging the role that the Northwest Carnival Initiative plays, and hopefully we'll be able to do a lot more for many other organisations.
Okay, I think that's everybody. Aidan, if you have any comments to make just before we pass this paper.
Yeah, just I suppose in relation to the areas that's covered. I mean, I suppose this is to make provision for the Carnival Initiative to be able to, under their existing structures, to be able to develop large scale props. So I suppose the location of those will be dependent on the groups that they work with and the groups that come forward to work with them. And the idea is they will have the ability to develop large scale props that will become part of their existing program and I suppose council's existing program. So that's the provision. In terms of more detail around the Carnival Initiative, as you know, the recipients of our service level agreements would generally make an annual presentation to committee. That didn't happen last year because of COVID, but I'm currently working with committee section to get those scheduled over the next few months. So the Carnival Initiative will be presenting a detailed report around their annual activity to this committee within the next, I think they're all due to be scheduled before January. So it's probably better to wait to see that detail coming forward. But as you know, it's a consortium of various carnival and community arts groups right across the city and district, and they work with numerous groups that come forward to work with them.
Okay, hopefully a very quick supplementary, Derek, from yourself.
Thanks, Chair. I mean, my query was, what evidence is there historically of that outreach that Aidan has now just exemplified should be going forward? But what is there historically to suggest that there has been that activity already taking place? Thank you.
You want to come back on that, Aidan?
Yeah, well, as I say, they would have made annual presentations to Business and Culture Committee. The last one, I think, was probably in autumn 2019. So that would have been a full detailed report around their annual activity. So we can recirculate that. And as I say, they'll be coming back in to do that. We didn't do it last year, primarily because of the pandemic and just because of the way I suppose committees were running and everything else. But we're now scheduling those to come back. So that'll be an update, I suppose, since autumn 2019 to now, and I look forward to their coming year.
Okay, thanks for that, Aidan. I haven't, nobody has indicated any opposition to this paper, so I'm going to take that as passed. So moving on to agenda item 12 then. Again, Aidan, you're working hard tonight.
So thank you, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is to update you on progress against agreed recommendation following consideration of the previous public artwork update in December 2020, and to seek your approval for the additional works associated with the Stitch in Time artwork and the commissioning of a structural engineering report on the public artwork portfolio. In December 2020, members were presented with a public artwork update report and subsequently recommended the progression of works associated with Stitch in Time, the initiation of a public artwork inspection regime by Property Services, and the installation of a new lighting system at the Let the Dance Begin artwork. Property Services originally estimated the cost for inspection and recommissioning works for Stitch in Time at £13,900. The actual final cost for these works were £17,342. In addition to the planned tasks of relamping, crane and scaffold hire, supply cabling and associated control circuitry, loader install certification and lighting protection inspection, there were additional unforeseen issues that emerged as work was progressed. These additional tasks included the replacement of cabling between lamp holders, as well as the installation of new waterproof jointing kits and LED drivers. The recommissioning of Stitch in Time is nearing completion. However, the inspection of the lighting protection at Stitch in Time classed the current system as unsatisfactorily or insufficient. The proposed solution is to install a Pulsar Safe Strike certified which accords with all insurance requirements. The appropriate cost for this equipment installation is £4,500 plus VAT. In December 2020, members, you also approved the initiation of a full annual inspection regime led by Property Services across council artwork portfolio, including all the relevant inspections. The ECIR inspections of relevant artworks has been completed at a cost of 2,900. Property Services have addressed those actions where there was an immediate health and safety concern, including the isolation of power supply to a number of artworks. Property Services estimate the cost of completing the electrical recommissioning works as detailed in the reports to be £110,000. Property Services estimate the cost for an external structural engineering report on the relevant public artworks within the portfolio to be £60,000. This report is critical in order to determine if any of the current public artworks are structurally unsound. The site inspections across the public artwork portfolio have not been initiated as there is insufficient capacity within the Public Property Services team. Property Services will seek additional resource to meet this demand from 21-22. The preferred lighting option for Let the Dance Begin, selected by members in December of this committee, had an estimated cost of between 50 and 60,000. Property Services have subsequently revised this estimate to 40,000 for LED in-ground uplighters. The Environment and Regeneration Directorate has secured external funding for these works through the Department for Communities Recovery Grant. The procurement exercise has been initiated and works are expected to commence early autumn 2021. And members, I'm happy to confirm that process has been completed and it's expected that that work will come in just slightly under £40,000. In July 2019, members, you're presented with a report detailing the recommissioning and ongoing maintenance requirement for the public artwork portfolio in the council area and highlighting the budget implications for the full implementation of proposed maintenance schedule. The estimate regarding recommissioning costs for the entire artwork portfolio was calculated at £257,800. The annual maintenance schedule identified the requirement for an annual budget of £76,339 to adequately meet the upkeep requirements of the full public artwork portfolio. The current annual public artwork maintenance budget is £20,000. The estimated annual recurring cost for the Stitch and Time piece alone is £4,300. The recommissioning costs of £17,342 for Stitch and Time have been drawn from the 2021 public artwork maintenance budget. The ECIR inspection costs of £2,900 have been drawn from the 21-22 public artwork maintenance budget. And the ECIR inspections of the public artwork portfolio will be required every 3 years at a minimum. There will be recurring costs for the structural and loader inspections also. It is proposed that the installation of the required lighting protection for Stitch and Time, estimated at £4,500, is drawn from the public artwork maintenance 21-22 budget. There is insufficient resource within the public artwork maintenance budget to commission the structural engineering report for the public artwork portfolio at £60,000. The site inspection resource required by Property Services will form part of subsequent budgetary discussions with Environment and Regeneration. Members, you're asked to note the progress of works on the Stitch and Time and Let the Dance Begin artworks, and you're asked to approve the commissioning of lighting protection for Stitch and Time at an estimated cost of £4,500 to be drawn from the member-approved public artwork maintenance budget. And your members, you're asked to approve the commissioning of a structural engineering report for the public artwork portfolio at an estimated cost of £60,000 should budget become available.
Okay, thanks, Aileen. Foreman and our speakers to say, as Chair, I'm happy to propose this particular item, given that it's a piece of public art within my own DEA, and it's an extremely popular item, which speaks to the history of Rosemount and can be seen throughout the city and puts that particular historic area of our city on the map, many fields. So I'm happy to propose it. So the first indicated speaker is Councillor Jason Barr.
Thank you, Chair, and once again, thanks to Aileen for that report. Brilliant news for what we call them locally as the Tinnies and Strabane. Brilliant news now to see that this funding has been secured outside of council, so it's not going to be up to council to pay for this, so that's also brilliant to see. But it's going to be brilliant now that this will enhance that area at night, and it will help in illuminating them, especially when they're going to be lit up for special occasions, for charities and for remembrance occasions and things like that. So totally welcome this, absolutely brilliant news. So thanks a million, Aileen, again. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Cusick.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Aileen. And I just want to specifically, on behalf of the SDLP, welcome the developments with the Stitch in Time artwork. Unfortunately, things do, costs do escalate, and I know everything is escalating in the past 2 years with the pandemic. So while it's regrettable, it's still something that should not put us off supporting and making sure that this artwork continues to be a focal point in the Foyleside constituency. Also, what we have to remember is too, we're still fighting to get so many more tributes to our factory workers' heritage and culture, and get them recognised. And this is one of the real focal points, and everybody has been supportive of that, not only in the Rosemount community, but throughout the city and district. And yeah, so we've got to take a hit with money. Sometimes that happens, but really appreciate what the officers have done and everybody involved. So thank you.
Okay, Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. And just a very quick one. 3.1 to me would be quite worrying. Property services, estimated cost fee, actual costs. The actual costs were 25% above the estimated costs. How confident can we be with the figures that have been presented on the basis of property services reports? Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it's very important that the Stitch in Time artwork has been saved and maintained and upgraded. And I think, as everybody will know, it's been welcomed not just in Foyleside, but right across the city. And it is a way of honouring the generations of factory workers who worked in the Rosemount factory, but in factories right across Derry from all communities and backgrounds. And, I think we have to say that people have been let down many, many times with big promises that haven't been delivered on. But that artwork, plus the plaques that the Friends of the Factories and the Derry Trade Union Council put up over the last year, I think, and other initiatives have attempted to make sure that our factory workers are properly paid tribute to. And I, speaking to them, I know that they're absolutely delighted. And, sometimes it's not the big money initiatives that people want to see. They're happy with, even small ways that mark their efforts and their contribution to the city. And indeed, Stitch in Time is one of them, as are the plaques. And there is underneath now the Stitch in Time artwork. There's a beautiful plaque right up there at the entrance to the factory that people can go. And I think this is one thing. There's so much talk about we need to develop the city for the tourism, for tourists, and that's a kind of mantra. But I think when we develop the city for the people who actually live in it and the district, and it benefits people who live here, that's something that when tourists come to the city as well, they say these things are brilliant. And I think we need to apply that approach right across the work that we do. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I don't have any further indicated speakers in the chat box or in the chamber, so I'm going to consider that item passed. So moving on to the final item for decision this evening. Again, it's Aileen. Item 13, please.
Thank you, Chair. So, members, the purpose of this report is to provide partner councils, including our own, with an update on the programme following this year. Members, you'll be aware the Sperrin's Future Search Conference was held in September 2017, and that brought together a number of key stakeholders to draft an agreed action plan for the future of the Sperrin's. The Sperrin's Partnership Project is a joint collaboration between 4 councils. That's ourselves, Causeway Coast, Fermanagh and Omagh, and Mid-Ulster District Council. Each council in 2018 committed to equal financial contributions towards the project delivery. The project was originally intended to be for the financial year 1920, but due to delays in recruiting staff, this support was not apportioned until the financial year 2021. Sperrin's Partnership Project Officer and part-time administrative support have been appointed and took up their respective roles in October 2020. Work completed since then includes the approval and sign off of the Sperrin's Partnership Agreement between partner councils. The government structure has been established. Sperrin's Partnership Board has been established. The development and launch of the new website. SperonsPartnershipProject.com, and the web address is in the report. The official launch of the Sperons Future Cert report and action plans, a review and update of the Brand and Tourism Action Plan, the formation of the Brand and Tourism Thematic Group, and the engagement with statutory agencies, support, assistance and promotion of collaborative projects, including the Sperons Sculpture Trail and the International Appalachian Trail project. There are a number of projects which each of the partner councils are leading on that will support the collaborative work of the partnership and enhance the product in the region. They are outlined in the report, and they include the Sperons Sculpture Trail, the International Appalachian Trail, the OM Dark Sky Park and Observatory located in Dava Forest. Causeway Coast and Glens Borough Council have recently sourced funding for enhancement works at Banagher Glen. Garva Mountain Bike Trail, located in the Sperrin boundary within the Causeway Coast and Glen, has also proved to be a very popular tourist attraction, and the project has created a community health hub in Garva Forest as well. In Fermanagh Oma, the recent improvement work has recently been completed at the Gorchin Glen Forest Park, which has been redeveloped into a family-friendly outdoor experience. The project, overall Sperons Partnership Project, has a number of priorities over the coming months, which include the commencement work on the delivery of the short and long-term actions contained within the Brand and Tourism Action Plan, identifying funding opportunities and creating the respective business cases, completing an audit of the tourism product of the Sperons region, forming strong cross-boundary partnerships, research and identifying the best practice delivery structure for the Sperrin region, the formation and development of the remaining thematic groups. The Sperons Partnership is presently funded by 4 councils at a total annual cost of £88,000. Going forward, it's anticipated that the annual operating cost will remain the same. Officers are currently looking at options to secure additional funding from external resources for relevant projects. Each council had committed around £22,000 for the current financial year. This contribution includes salary and programming costs and concludes in October 2021. A further financial contribution for a further year until October 2022, and thereafter annually is requested to extend the project to maintain momentum and build on early success and allow for effective forward planning and project management. Members, you're asked to agree to continue to offer financial support for the continuation of the Sperons Partnership Project at a cost of £22,000 annually. This funding will be vital to ensure that the Sperons Partnership Project can deliver on its vision as outlined at the Sperons Future Cert Conference. This is subject to a matching agreement from all partner councils. You're also asked, members, to note the Sperons Partnership Board terms of reference attached in Appendix 1.
Okay, thanks, Aidan. Councillor Maguire.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Aidan, for the report, and it is welcome to see this work ongoing and this collaborative work ongoing. Just before I propose a recommendation, 6 to 7 months, I think, might be a wee bit too long, you know, for getting updates on this, verbal updates. So maybe if we could maybe have, you know, quarterly, if that would be okay. And if that's okay, Chair, I'll propose the recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Maguire. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. And like Councillor Maguire, you know, I would be concerned at the report gaps. It's been quite a while since the Future Search Conference occurred, and I was one of the delegates who attended on behalf of Council that particular event. Within that, one of the areas of debate at the conference was, you know, what actual area are we talking about? And I notice in the project roadmap, there are 2 things there: define geographic area and also define the area, essence and product. Where are we at with the definition of what we actually mean by the Sperrin area, as you know, as opposed to I had understood that it was stretching beyond the area of outstanding national beauty definition. So can that be clarified? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Alderman Devaney.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in, and I have no problem in seconding the recommendation coming forward here. And yes, I do agree with one of the previous speakers there that said that I think we need more of an update, and I think a quarterly update would be very helpful, so it would. And yes, as Alderman Hussey did say, it seems a long time since the Future Search conference, but happy to second it, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Morris. Councillor Harkin.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I wasn't part of these initial discussions, but I think that the preservation of the sparrows is crucial, and it is an area of outstanding natural beauty. But that is threatened and endangered by the possible or threatened toxic mining that this council has a corporate position of opposing, and has led to the development of many campaigning organisations right across multiple counties in the Sperrins area, calling for for action to block potential toxic mining, and and again, I want to refer to the fact that the executive parties minus the DUP. We're at a protest on Monday calling for action on climate. But at the same time, I don't understand why an infrastructure minister can then allow project splitting and give Dalradian the ability to move forward with their plans. So, we need to protect the sparrows, but I think that any discussion right now about the future of the sparrows and protecting its status as an area of outstanding natural beauty has to discuss and put at the centre the plans for toxic mining there. So I just want to get that on record. At every opportunity, we've committed as a party to raising the issue of the threat to the sparrows posed by toxic mining. So that's what we'll continue to do.
Okay, I have no further indicated speakers. Do you want to come back, Aidan, and deal with any of the queries?
Yeah, happy to bring quarterly reports. I don't think there's an issue with that. I suppose part of the issue of late is that a lot of the activity has been curtailed, and members who will be familiar with the project know there's been several delays and false starts in getting launch events done and various other things. So, but we're hoping to get to the project will gather some pace now that we're able to get out and about and get back to business a bit more. The definition hasn't been strictly defined for the Sperrins region. It is looking at the area of outstanding natural beauty. Each of the councils have taken the boundary, as it were, into each council area. So I think we're not being too strict, but that may be a matter for the board to decide, for the Sperrins Partnership Board to decide in due course if they want to be very clear about the definition of that. But we are looking at it beyond, and the members will be aware that the Sperrins region goes beyond the area of outstanding natural beauty. But we are not being too prescriptive as yet as to what exactly that boundary is. I'm happy. I'm not sure. I think I'm just happy to note the rest of the comments, unless I have missed a specific question. But if I have, if members want to come back in and remind me if there's something I've missed. But
no one's indicating reading, so I think that's fine. So again, no one has spoke against this item, so I'm taking that as being passed. It's been proposed and seconded. So that concludes items for decision. We're now moving on to section where it's items for information. Members have got these in their packs, and as proposed, they take them in two sections. So if anybody has any questions or comments that they want to make on items 14 to 18, please indicate now, please. Councillor Farrell.
Thanks, Chair. I'd like to comment on two items. The first one is going to be very brief. It's regarding item 14, which is the development of the new council website. I think that's positive news. I think it's good news that we've identified a partner to deliver this new website, and I look forward to its launch next April. And the other item that I wanted to touch on again briefly was item 15, which is about the Halloween celebrations. Obviously, Halloween is synonymous with this city, and it's just over 6 weeks away. I know we've had briefings on plans previously, but it's good to see these before us again, where they confirm what's going to be happening across the city and district. The Awakening the Walled City looks really positive, looks really exciting. We're going to have activity in Queen's Quay, the city centre, and Ebrington and St Colum's Park. And I am particularly intrigued, Aideen, about this new thing that you've sprung on us about the flagship installation at Ebrington. We're going to have LED screens with augmented reality. Not sure what that means, but I'm going to be over having a look. And I understand it's going to be the first of its kind on the island of Ireland. So that's something to celebrate. And obviously, we're going to have fireworks as well, which, Derry people love fireworks, and I think Strabane people like them as well. So I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic weekend throughout the city and district, and I look forward to it going from strength to strength as the COVID restrictions are relaxed in the future. Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Gary, I want to come on item 17.
Chair, I just noticed Derek there has on for item 15 again that Rory was talking about, so maybe you want to take him first, or?
Okay, Derek, do you want to go ahead and deal with that, and then we'll come back to Alderman Gary?
I appreciate that, Chair. Thanks for the information report that we have in front of us here. 3.16 under item 15 is with regard to the Castleberry Apple Fair, which has traditionally been the inaugural event, if you wish, of all of the festivities and events around Halloween. And I note there that the organisers have yet to come forward. Could I appeal to officers there for, I suppose, a greater input from officers as this is developed? We've heard of other events where officer involvement has been of a higher level, perhaps, than we have with regard to the Apple Fair. It has tremendous potential, and sometimes that can be held back, perhaps by a local lack of vision that could be augmented with the wider picture being brought into the frame from officers. And just, I suppose, a question on that then. The organisers of the event have not confirmed. Could I have an indication of who actually are the organisers? Because I know this last couple of years there have been some concerns locally as to that, and I'm sure there are a lot of people within the Castleberry community who want to keep the event going and would be keen to become involved. But who presently are council liaising with? Thank you.
Okay, Aideen, Councillor Logue has indicated she wants to talk on the same item. I'll let you come back and answer those, and then we'll move on to Alderman Guy. So, Councillor Logue.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. No, it's just a comment on item 15 and item 17. Definitely the Halloween programme looks great, and definitely looking forward to seeing all the new things that's going to be happening there, and it's good to see that the neighbourhood renewal areas are going to be able to apply for funding too. Just on item 17, I just note that the Honourable Irish Society, they are providing money for 10 memorial benches, and I was just wondering how the locations of these benches, how they're going to, how it's going to be determined. And, I don't think that they should be placed on council or central government land, and certainly not an interface areas. I would certainly want to see them in areas where the people want them. So thank you. If you could maybe just explain how the location of these is going to be determined. Thank you.
Aileen, I'll let Alderman Guy in first as well to deal with that in case there's questions that also would be pertinent to yourself. So, Alderman Guy, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Mine's is in regard to the installation of the memorial stone. dedicated to those killed between 18th, 25th of June, 1920. I note that the council team are requesting further details from the general public. I've spoke with Aidan about a recent tour that was included in the Newgate Fringe Festival about the 1920 Civil War. The tour guides, Seamus Breslin and Trevor Temple, were loaded with knowledge about the fateful events around those dates. Yourself, Chair, Councillor John Boyle, and myself were, I think, the only people aware of these events at the time, and we're probably right in saying that the three of us agreed that our knowledge of it was sketchy. And I've spoke to Aidan about this before, and I know we're not supposed to propose anything we put on, but it's quite short actually. I would just like to propose that members of the working group, or in fact the Business and Culture Committee, if we could actually attend the tour to learn of those events, especially those people on the centenary group that weren't aware of them, because it was very knowledgeable, and especially when you're in the area where all the killings took place, it's quite startling to hear some of the stories, you know. And maybe if the council team themselves would perhaps contact Seamus, who actually, I think he completed his PhD in this, if I'm right, but he's definitely full of knowledge in the whole event. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Alderman Gay, and I would be quite happy to go on that tour, but just for him, I have a bit more than just a sketchy knowledge of those events. It's a relative of mine is one of the people who was killed, so I've spent a bit of time looking into events at that time, but happy to go on the tour.
That's right, Chair. That's right, Chair.
No problem. So Aidan, oh sorry, Aidan, hold on again. Councillor Harkin just wants to come in. Apologies, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, and that's a great idea from Alderman Guy, and I would like to do that tour as well. I think it would be beneficial, and it's an important date to mark. And a colleague of mine on the Derry Trades Council, Adrian Grant, has written an absolutely fantastic book exploring that whole period and documents the Civil War in Derry. So I think I would recommend people pick up a copy of his book, Revolution in Derry. You can get it over at Jenny's bookstore, at a Little Acorn bookstore in Foyle Street. And maybe there's a way we could actually have Dr. Grant in to do a presentation at some point on that period. I think that especially if there's a monument going up, which I support, and I think it provides a real insight into the dynamics that existed in the city in 1920, and it's very important for us to mark it.
Okay, Aidan, if you want to come back and deal with any of the questions that were asked earlier.
Yeah, so go back to Alderman Hussey and the Castlederg Apple Fair. I understand that our understanding is that the original organisers of the Castlederg Apple Fair have stepped aside, and a new group who run another separate event in Castlederg are looking at taking it over. They haven't decided, I think, that my understanding is they haven't decided what that's going to look like, but certainly my team are in regular contact with them, and they're happy to offer any advice and guidance that they can in relation to the development of the event. So they just, as of the production of the report, and as of yet, they haven't confirmed that, but rest assured we are in regular contact with them, and I'm sure if Alderman Hussey wanted to offer support to the group, they would welcome it. Or if there were other residents of Castlederg who wanted to offer their support to the group, they'd welcome it, and we'd be happy to facilitate that or make the necessary introductions. But yeah, we understand the importance of the Castlederg Apple Fair, and I think everybody would like to see it reinstated. And as the inaugural event of the Halloween festivities across the city and district. Then I think Councillor Logue, in relation to the Honourable Irish Society funding, my understanding from the fund that has been developed by the Honourable Irish Society is that that's open for communities to apply to, but the communities must have they must own the land, and they must have the permission of the landowner, and they must agree to maintain the bench, and that would, a part of that would be that would be in a suitable location. So insofar as we can, I suppose it's a matter for the Honourable Irish Society, but we're happy to pass on those comments. We're happy to pass on those comments to the Honourable Irish Society. And the third question from Alderman Guy, or the comments, yeah, I know I've spoken to Alderman Guy about the tour, and it's on the list. I think we'd agreed that possibly when it comes to the stone being installed, that we would organise that tour for members. So we're happy to do that, and it's our intention to do that and make that available. I mean, if we organise the tour, we can invite all of our elected members. So certainly the members of this committee. In relation to Adrian Grant, I know he's done a number of talks in the Tower Museum, and certainly we can look at programming him specifically, maybe around the time if the stone is put in by the group who want to install it. So it might be an opportunity to bring Adrian back to the Tower Museum, or invite him back to do another talk around that period. So that would certainly be it would be an opportunity for members to participate in that.
Okay, thanks, Aileen. Alderman Devaney has indicated he wants to speak on item 17, and I think we'll move on.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in very late. The only concern I wanted to raise was in around the benches. Look, Councillor Logue did state that she wanted nearly anywhere, as long as they're not on council property and stuff like that there. And I think it's disappointing to hear that from Councillor Logue. And the only question I have for Aileen is, look, say a community centre in the waterside applies for one of these benches and they get it, have they to go through the format then that they have to apply to the council then for permission to have that seat erected within their facility, or just outside their facility, or in a garden?
Aileen, do you want to respond?
Yeah, well, I suppose this is a fund that the Honourable Irish Society have opened. So part of the terms and conditions, I understand, is that they have to have the permission of the landowner. So that would be a separate ask of council if a group are looking to put that on council land. So it would, I assume, generate a separate report, probably not into this committee, but into in a separate ask into members of another committee. So yeah, I think the fund has been designed for community groups that own their land, as opposed to council. But yeah, if they want to put on council land, it's a separate ask, and permission would need to be established. But I understand that the Honourable Irish Society will take applications and hold them in abeyance for anywhere until the conditions are met, as it were. They're doing it on a first come, first served basis, but I think they'll allow for that if groups need to seek permission, or of their own board or whoever to do that.
Thank you very much for that, Aileen. Sorry for coming in, Chair. Thank you very much for that update. At least to understand the process now. Thank you.
Okay, right, thanks, Aileen. One more indicated speaker before we move to the next section here, please. Councillor Logue.
Sorry, Chair, and thanks for letting me on again. I'll be very brief. It's just that when members were talking about that tour, the 3.19, I just want to say that there was an excellent, I think it was a weekly, 4-weekly article that was run, I think it was the Dairy Journal from memory, where Colin Barton from the Bogside and Brandywell Neighbourhood Management Team, along with a local resident, Ivor Doherty, they completed a full history of that period as well, and it was publicised on the local paper, and it was really very interesting reading. So I do think, if there's anything being arranged, that they should be included too, because they done a very good piece of work at that time around the things that happened in 1920. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm sure you'll take that on board. And we know it's actually, Colin Barton is one of the people in the division behind the initiative around the stone, so he's involved in this work already. Okay, if there's no further indicated, I intend to take the second block of items now from 19 to 22. So if there's anyone wishing to speak on any of those, please indicate now. Councillor Cusack.
Thank you, Chair. It's on item 20, the screen office. But while I welcome the work done to date on this motion, and I have to say it was incredibly enthusiastically received by the public and everybody who works in those sectors, could we get a bit more detail on the nuts and bolts of this? And I have 3 questions, if you don't mind. So the first one is, and it's just to get an idea of my understanding of this and the outworkings of it. So effectively, this is a website which provides information and signposts organisations as opposed to actually being incorporated into the physical department. And is there any human element or contact for those wishing to meet or discuss projects and ideas in person? So that's my first one. The second one is who would ultimately be responsible for managing this portal, and how will it be accessed and promoted? Is that through like the council corporate website, or is it a standalone entity? I don't really know, what the setup is there. It's not really well explained. And the final one is what steps are being made to add film to the department name, i.e. business, culture and film, which was an important element of the motion, and indeed it's a very important element when it comes to any search engine input and results for when people are trying to, you put in Derry Strabane Council, film, etc., etc. So if they could be answered, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, I have no further indicated speakers looking to come in on any of the other items, or indeed this one. So I'll bring you back on, Aileen, maybe to see if you can answer Councillor Cusack's questions.
Yeah, happy to answer the questions. I suppose the proposal is set out there in relation to the screen office, but I suppose due to the current resources, you'll be aware that we, as part of the departmental race task in 2020, officers outlined the requirement for additional resource investment within the tourism department, including a bid to secure a recurring resource for a dedicated screen officer and a food tourism officer position. And at this time, the additional required budget was not secured. Officers been working, within the industry to develop. We've also been working within our existing resources to develop a number of screen tourism experiences, but and at the moment, the activities that we do at the moment are funded within existing tourism budgets. But I suppose if we're to do them to the extent, and certainly to look at changing the name of the department, and we would need resources, the resources that are required. So I suppose we're asking members to take into consideration the resources required to fully develop and grow this sector, and the additional investment that's required within the tourism department to deliver that, and to deliver the motion as set out. Okay,
that's great, Aileen. Good answers.
Can I come back on if you don't mind?
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Cusack.
So effectively, it's not, we're not, how can I say this? It doesn't seem to be very ambitious. I understand the financial aspects of it, but again, this was a motion which really was about, developing our offering, as opposed to, having higher ambition for this council and council areas, and attracting the film industry and providing jobs and creating a skill set, everything that we're supposed to be about, and especially with trying to increase our tourism capacity, all that sort of thing. So I have to say I'm disappointed, and while I appreciate, yes, there's always financial restrictions to everything we do, I do think that this this really does demand a bit more sort of, how would I say, ambition, definitely. And also, given that we have such a wealth of talent here, given that we should be looking to the future, forward thinking industries, and that is definitely film, tech, etc., we're perfectly placed to put this as a priority, as opposed to a half-hearted measure through a website. I don't know if any other members would agree with me, but I do think even, to add the name film to a department, I don't know how that can be, incredibly cost demanding. It is essentially just adding a name to it, and I understand branding, marketing, all that sort of a thing. But I would, if there was a way of, maybe, you know, putting a wee bit more emphasis on this and thinking about the longer term and how we can really, as a city and district, benefit from this. I'd just like to see it taken maybe a wee bit more seriously and having a wee bit more ambition for it, because I know the public out there and those who work in the sector, especially the arts and culture sector, are really behind this motion. So that's my tuppence worth anyway.
Aileen, I don't know
Chair,
if you want to add, just so I take those comments on board. Or...
I just was going to come back and just maybe I wasn't clear. I mean, there is a considerable amount of work that is done by the tourism department has 2 members of staff at the moment, 2 full-time members of staff. So there is considerable amount of work done by that department and across our wider department to respond to screen inquiries. And we have made efforts to secure budget for this. Because we are very cognizant, and officers are very cognizant of the fact that there is a requirement for a resource, for a dedicated resource. You know, and I think it's probably a disservice to my own team to not make clear the work that they do over and above all of the other tourism development work that they're already doing, and the work that they do in partnership with Visit Derry to respond to screen queries. We have them every week, and we never turn one down. We're very proactive in the screen work that we do, but at the moment it is primarily reactive, and we are very aware of the fact that we the opportunities that would present if it's proactive, but you know that we're doing that on top of our other work at the moment. You know, and people are making exceptional efforts to ensure that we are dealing with screen queries, because we do understand the importance of them and the opportunity that they present. But I suppose it would be unfair of us not to present a full picture to members and make that clear that there is a resource requirement there to fully realise the opportunities there.
Okay, thanks, Aileen. Councillor Boyles indicated. Go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for letting me in. Just to keep it brief, but more in support of Councillor Cusack, and in actual fact, indeed, in support of the ask of Aideen and her department. It's very evident to me that the challenge here is a resource challenge, and actually that's our decision, and it's up to us as elected representatives to make that decision and decide if we want to prioritise this area of development going forward. And I, for one, believe that obviously Councillor Cusack presented the motion originally to council, and so from that you can read that the SDLP will be supportive and are supportive of the provision of further resource to recognise these particular ambitions. And that resource, to me, very evidently, Chair, is that we need people to drive these things forward. And I commend Aideen and her very small marketing team for the work that they do. And actually, I thank her for the answer, because the reality is we really don't want to be in a situation where we are reactive. We should be in a situation where we're proactive, and the only way to do that is to give the officers, the people, the time, and indeed the finance to do it. And so going forward, you can expect that the SDLP will be supporting such an ask, because I, for one, as somebody with significant experience in this field over many years, do appreciate just how much of a contribution this could make to economic development, job prosperity and job creation. And I think we all in this chamber need to support that ambition. You can only see yourself the success of Derry Girls, and that's one series. It's been a phenomenal success. Imagine if we had 3 or 4 more of those over the next couple of years, the level of visitor interest that we would have. And it doesn't take much imagination, and that's just for tourism. I'm interested also in job creation for local people. So that's something I think that we need to be bearing in mind, and that'll probably come through a rates ask going forward. But it's something I think we all need to be very serious about. And thanks for letting me in as a non-committee member, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Logue.
Thank you, Chair. And very briefly, and certainly from our party's perspective, we certainly supported this motion. We all bring motions, and nearly all, not all the time, but nearly all the time, There is a resource issue with a lot of them. And I do note in your report, Aidan, that you weren't successful for the 2 dedicated officers, and I suppose that's part of the problem. But it's a wee bit early yet, I suppose, to be talking about our rates process, but it will be coming upon us very, very soon. And, you know, we all have asked that we want to make our council, the whole council district, a better place for all its citizens to live in. But we also have the responsibility as councillors to make very, very difficult decisions. And we can't expect council officers to bring things out of thin air. And sometimes that means that we have to make difficult decisions regarding the rates. So I do hope that those who are having all these asks, that they are brave enough to make the decisions to make it happen and not leave it to others. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone. I think that there's no further indicated speakers on any of those items. So that brings us to the end of open business. And if we could now move on to confidential, and if we could get the cameras turned off, please. We'll just give it a couple of seconds.